Hi, it's Kristen, and this is the Get to Know My Taste tag. So this tag was created by My Name is Marinez and Thoughts on Tomes, and it's just a bunch of questions about your taste in books, how you read, that kind of thing. Some questions I have like quite solid answers for, and others are a bit more wishy-washy, but we'll just go through them. I have the questions down here, and some of the questions are quite long, so I will be looking down here to read them. So question 1 is, how do you rate books? Give a quick rundown of how you do your star ratings, or if you don't use star ratings, how you evaluate books. I do use star ratings, as most reading trackers are done within like a 5-star rating system. That's generally what I use. My scale is like 5 stars is like an incredible book. Like if there were some issues with it, they're issues I don't like care enough about to affect like my love of the book. So 5-star for me is like an incredible book. 4 stars is really liked the book, but there were like a couple of issues that I couldn't quite overlook, but I still overall really enjoyed the book or thought it was like brilliantly constructed or something. 3 stars can go like one of two ways for me. It's either like, was it a good book in terms of being like profound, well written, like doing anything new? No, but I still really enjoyed myself. 3 stars. Doesn't have to necessarily be a good book, but like, did I have a good time with it? Yes, 3 stars. Or it's, did I have a good time with it? Sometimes not, but I appreciate it's well written, it's doing something, it's achieved its purpose, I like respect the book. But was it my favorite? No. So those are like the two different 3 stars. Is it a good book? No. Did I have a great time? Yes. Did I have a great time? Is it objectively a good book? Yes. Those are both 3 stars for me. 2-star would be one that I didn't enjoy and that like I didn't think was great, but it's not like offensively bad. 1 star for me is books that I'm just like, this was terribly written. There were like real issues I had with like the story or the characters or a plot point or something. And like I just thought it was a bad book. So those, I like very rarely rate things 1 star, but there are a couple of books I have rated 1 star that I think just were like, did something in them that I could not get past. So that's like generally how I rate things. Question 2, how do you approach reviewing books? What's your review style? Are you analytical, emotional, casual, or structured? I think I'm emotional and casual. I try to organize my thoughts into like different points to do with character, writing, plot, and I feel some books are easier to review than others. Sometimes I will do a video review and I'll be like, here are the things I liked, here are my issues, this is my overall rating, these are my thoughts. And I think I explain myself fairly well. And then other times I make videos and I'm like, I liked it, but it was just vibes. Or like, I didn't like it and here are the issues with it, but I also think those issues are like intentional, like of the writer to be doing these things, but I still take issue with them, and that's not necessarily the fault of the writer, that's just like that's on me. So I definitely think emotion plays a big part for me, because like whether I get connected to the characters or I'm invested in the plot or I just like the vibes of a book play a really big part in my like overall liking a book, more so I would say than me going, did they use great metaphors and similes and is it well structured? And it's like, those are important, but I do think I'm more emotional when I connect to a book. And I definitely am more casual in my reviewing. I think you'll all agree. Question 3. What's the book that made you a reader, whether it was your first favourite or the one that got you hooked? What book started it all? I mean, I've always liked reading. When I was very little, like, my parents would read to us, and I think that's so important. And I was always like getting books at the library in school, and I was always very much encouraged to read by my parents. So I love that. We're big readers in this family. But like, this series that I remember like getting hooked on when I was younger was the Judy Moody series. I loved that series. I reread those books so many times. But also I'd read them like quite casually. I think the first series, other than like the one that shall not be named, that I got hooked into myself, that like my mum didn't like read to us, because she did with the series that shall not be named. She read the first few books to like me and my brother and my sister as we were growing up until we could read them ourselves. But the first book series I read the whole of myself was A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. This, I think I got gifted book 2 for my birthday when I was younger by a friend whose like parents didn't realise it was book 2, even though these books actually do say the number on the side. And I liked it, but was a bit confused. And then my mum, for I think like Christmas or my next birthday or something, got me the box set of the first 10 books, because that was all that was out. And then I got 11, 12 and 13 as they were released. But I read those books, and like I read the first 10 and then didn't have any more, and so I just like reread those 10 books until like new books came out. And then when 11 came out, I reread the 10, read 11, and then when 12 came out, I reread 11 and then read the 12th book. And then when the 13th book came out, I reread all the books in preparation for the final one. So like, I was a big rereader when I was a young child with my Judy Moody's and my Series of Unfortunate Events and like Molly Moon and that kind of thing. I was a big series rereader, and I don't do that now. Maybe I need to go back to my childhood. But those were the books that like really got me into reading when I was young. Question 4 is, do you have a genre niche? Are there certain genres you gravitate towards, or do you read widely across genres? I think I read quite widely. I read fiction, I read non-fiction, I will read fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, thrillers, crime, supernatural, paranormal, historical, romance, literary fiction. I think I read really quite widely, and I'm like happy about that, because I will like go through phases of like reading a great fantasy book and then being very into fantasy, or reading a good like thriller book and then wanting to read like a lot of crime, murder mystery kind of stuff, or like being in certain moods for certain genres. So I'm glad that I read really widely, because I think there's like always going to be something I'm interested in. So yeah, I don't have a niche particularly. I will just generally read whatever piques my interest. Question 5, do you generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? I prefer character-driven. I've said many times, if there's like low plot but strong characters, I can get through a book. But if there's like a lot of plot but characters I do not care about, I really have to push my way through it. Some books I've read and really enjoyed have like very little plot. The plot is basically just the characters and their relationships with each other. and I've loved those kinds of books. So characters are very much important to me. But there are some books I've read that are like very character driven, no plot, and even though I've liked the characters, I'm like, but like, what are we actually doing here? So I do need a little bit of plot, but generally I rely on books being character driven, because again, like within plot, I need a reason for the characters to be doing XYZ. Like, why do they want to save the kingdom? Like, personally, why are they going on this journey? Why are they doing whatever they're doing within the plot? Like, if it's just because that's what the plot is, but the character has no relationship to the plot, then I take issue with that. So definitely character driven for me. Question 6. What's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? What's that one book you love enough for everyone? I know it says one book, but I've actually got 2 answers. These are not by any means like unpopular books. I just joined the hype train. I love A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I will say I actually did read this, I think, before it like really blew up. I really like this. I've heard people like complain about Pip as a character. I am like 10 toes down for Pip. I love her. This series goes in like a wild direction, which I know a lot of people have issues with book 3, and like I sort of did, but then I also like I got it, but like yikes. But this is like a young teenage girl solving mysteries, quite intense mysteries of like murder and like little conspiracies going on in their town, as a school project initially, and then it becomes like a bigger thing and she gets pulled into these other mysteries. It's fun, it is serious. There is stuff to do with like murder, violence, sexual assault, drugs, things like that in here, but I just think it's like a really interestingly crafted story across like the trilogy, how things come into play in other books and how characters come into play at different parts. Really like Pip, really like Ravi, really like the multimedia element of this as well. I just think this is great, and it's a young adult series, but I think it's like an older YA, I would say, but I think you can enjoy it as an adult. So like this is a young adult book I will still like defend as an adult. And then my other book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Again, I see some people like not liking Nora as a character, and I really like Nora. I like definitely felt for her and like related to her in some parts. And this is generally like a very popular book. People love Emily Henry. But this is so far my favourite Emily Henry that I've read. So when people put it at the bottom of their rankings, I'm like, what? But yeah, I love Book Lovers. So those are 2 books that I love them. 7. What's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, you know your reading tastes don't align? The book or books where a difference of opinion is a strong indicator of different reading preferences. I don't really know that I have like an answer to this, because I think it would be easier to answer the other way around, of like a book that other people love that I don't, or I have no interest in, that if they love it, I don't think that we'd have the same preferences because I know that I wouldn't love that book. So like, you know, Colleen Hoover and stuff. If someone loves Colleen Hoover, I can like probably guess that we don't have the same reading tastes. But in terms of stuff that I love, that if someone doesn't like it, knowing our reading tastes don't align, I would say just like not necessarily one book, but if people are very dismissive of romance, and particularly historical romance, and I would say especially if they get very like judgy about books that have like covers like this, like, is it everyone's taste? No, but like if you don't like it, that's fine, but you don't need to be like, it's just smut. Why would anyone want to pick that up? Shirtless men on covers is disgusting. Because like, you can have that opinion, but if you're being really like vocal and loud about it and just dismissing like romance as a whole, I don't think our tastes would align. Because I love me a romance. I love a little historical jaunt every now and then. Are they always the best books? No, but I think dismissing like a whole type of book, especially when you've not even read it, you're just judging like a book by its cover or by the fact that mostly like women read those books, then yeah, I think our reading tastes won't align. Question 8. What is in your trash pocket? What books, tropes, or themes that you know are bad, but you love them anyway? I don't really know that I have an answer for this, because to some degree I feel like every trope can be done well if done by like a certain kind of writer or like by a good author. If they do it in an interesting way, most tropes can play out well. I guess I would say I love marriage of convenience as a trope in like historical romances or like fantasy. And like, I very much get that like real life connotations of marriage of convenience are not like great. Like, would I want to have to marry a man that I like didn't really know just for the sake of something? No. In a book, can it like absolutely slap when done well? Yes. So I guess I'd say that. I don't think it's a bad trope. I think it just very much depends on how it's done. Question 9. Do you have any deal breakers in books? Something that, if present, immediately turns you off? Yes. If it's a romance book where I'm supposed to like both of the characters and root for them to get together, I cannot stand when romance books have cheating in them. And like, I'm cheating's bad, but I'm not saying it doesn't make for an interesting story, because like Conversations with Friends, I really like that book. That whole thing is about like a young woman having an affair with a married man, but I don't root for them. I just like enjoy the messiness and the details of their lives, but I don't necessarily root for them to be together. I just think it's an interesting, well-written story. But if it's a romance book where I'm supposed to want the characters to get together, stay together, be together, and I'm supposed to like them both, and there's cheating in it, absolutely not. As soon as there's cheating in like romance, I can no longer root for those characters because I think they're bad people. So that's a deal breaker for me. Question 10. What's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year, whether it's overrated, underrated, or just a take you need to share? I don't really have like a specific book that I can think of that I have like a take on. I think like generally there were lots of books that came out last year that I feel like the authors are just churning out books at this point. And that's not necessarily on them, that's on like publishers, etc. Just like wanting new releases all the time from popular authors. But I do think it has an effect on the quality of a lot of these books, where I'm like, was this actually properly edited? Because there's lots of mistakes in here, or it doesn't feel as cohesive. And like, is it nice to have a new book from your favourite author every year? Yes. But sometimes would I prefer that an author actually take their time with their story and not feel pressure to get out a new book, get out a new book, get out a new book? Yeah, because I think it does affect the quality, it does affect the content. So just that's my take on books coming out like in recent years, is that I just think sometimes authors need more time to release books, and we shouldn't necessarily get a new book from an author every single year. Question 11. What do you look for in writing? What makes a book stand out to you? Is it prose style, themes, voice, structure, or something else? I like books that have a strong narrative voice, whether it's like a first person character telling us a story, whether it's third person, but it's like really obvious who we're following or like what the purpose of the story is. And just like bold plot and character choices. Like, I don't necessarily have to like a character or like guess where the plot's going or something, but if you just like make a bold choice and you stick to that choice and that choice makes sense, like that will make a book stand out to me, even if it's like messy with the characters' lives, if it's goes somewhere where I don't expect it to go, but I think it's like an interesting thing that the author's doing. That is what makes a book stand out to me. So like, for example, the third book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy, there's like something that happens halfway through which I did not anticipate like when going into that book, and it's like a very bold choice of Holly Jackson to have made, and it was quite controversial. Not everyone likes it. It really seems to like split opinion over whether you like that book or dislike that book. But like either way, it is a choice that Holly Jackson made, and I think that's, you know, impressive. Question 12. How do you decide what to read next? Do you plan ahead, mood read, or follow external factors, hype, recommendations, arcs? So I plan ahead based on like videos that I'm making mostly. If I know I want to make a certain type of video, that will decide like the next 1 to 5 books that I read. I'm trying to get better at mood reading because sometimes I get so swept up in making videos that I realize that like, am I not enjoying these books? Not because I don't actually like them, but because I just feel I have to read these books. And if I just had waited a couple of months and read this in my own time without like the need to make a video for it, would I enjoy this more? And also last year I joined 2 book clubs like at the same time, like in February. And so I realized that like every month I read 3 to 4 books, but because of those 2 book clubs, half of my reading each month was taken up by me not even like choosing the book to read. And I actually like fell off from one of those book clubs. I occasionally go if it's a book that like I already own or was already interested in reading. Whereas initially I was just like, I'll read the book regardless of if I actually had any interest in it, just because I want to like go to this book club. So I occasionally go to that one now. I do commit to the other book club because we do tend to read books in my Read the Room book club that I enjoy more or are more interesting to talk about with like a whole group of people. I think we just like read more diversely in that book club. So now that's only like 1 book per month that I have to read. So with my book club, there's like, always 1 book a month that I have to read regardless. And with that book club, it's also good because we will throw out suggestions and then it's like the most voted on book wins. And sometimes those are books that I've suggested that are already on my TBR. So it means I get a book off my TBR. I don't have to buy anything new. I don't have to get anything from the library. That's good. Whereas the other book club, we didn't get to vote. Like the person running the book club just picked. So often it wasn't a book that I already owned or anything. So yeah, I always have my book club book that I have to read, and then I base it around, videos and stuff. But I am trying to mood read more. Question 13. Where do you get your inspiration for your booktube content? What sparks your video ideas? Other creators, trends, personal reading experiences? Other creators really do inspire me. I watch a lot of booktube. I always think there are people doing very interesting things. I particularly like Kayla from Books and Lala, Becca from Becca and Books, Meg, Gavin reads it all. I always think they do interesting video concepts or come up with like interesting series and stuff like that. So I really enjoy them. And also in terms of making like my booktube content, when I realise I've got like a lot of a certain kind of book on my TBR, that can inspire me, because I'll look at my TBR and go, I've got loads of Greek mythology books right now. Let me get through them and do a Greek mythology vlog. Or I've not read sci-fi in a long time and actually I've accumulated quite a few books about space. Let me do a space themed reading vlog. And then like my Feminist Friday videos, I'm always inspired to like read books by women about women. And so I started that series because I was like, I mostly read books by women about women to some degree. So like, let's use that. And then things like my sister got me some TBR cards to try and help me when I'm like indecisive about what to read. And I was like, let's make this a little series situation. So yeah, I think I'm inspired by the books on my shelves, which is good. But definitely other creators as well. Question 14, if you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? A book you think deserves more attention and why? I am going to say To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. I feel like Becky Chambers is a very popular author, so I don't need to like hype them up as an author. I think The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is probably like the best known book, that series. But To Be Taught If Fortunate, for a book that is so short, I think does so much. And I would really love people to read this like right now and for it to go viral now, because like so much of this is about just like humanity and caring for one another, for the planet, for like the future, and just being invested in like the people around you and where you come from and stuff like that. And you know, I think we need to care about Earth very much so, and like the environment is really something I'm concerned about in this current climate. But also just like the mentality of caring for other people and being concerned about someone other than yourself, like in like their little astronaut squad and their like personal relationships to each other. I think it's important, but also like, yeah, humanity as a whole and like the continuation of life, and like we should just care about people because they're people, not because they can like serve a purpose to you, which I think is something that is also an issue nowadays. It's so short that it's like, I think people could get through it, but I think it has so much in there for a book that is so short, and I think more people should read it. So that is what I would want to go viral right now. Lastly, question 15. Who are some booktubers with reading tastes similar to yours? I think I have quite a lot in common with Jean Mingus, who is a booktuber and author. She studied antiquities, I think, for her PhD, and she writes like mythology retellings and histories and stuff. So I think we both read a lot of mythology. She also reads the kind of like fun, silly romances that I also read, like A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon and that kind of thing. So like she reflects my slightly more like literary, serious kind of books that I read, but also the like really fun books that I read. And I would also say, although she's not posted in a while, I always love watching Riley Marie's videos. Her like romance recommendations are what got me into reading romance more, particularly like historical romance. And so I always appreciate her for that. But she also reads the kind of fantasy and like horror books that I read. So I do think we have a fair amount in common. So yeah, I would say those two, Jean and Riley. I think I have similar reading tastes too. So that was the last question. That is it for this video. How would you answer any of these questions? Do let me know down below, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye.